In 1996, researchers published a study with a finding so simple it should have ended the conversation about sleep advice entirely. They took a group of normal sleepers, people with no history of insomnia, no sleep disorders, no particular difficulty closing their eyes at night, and divided them into two conditions. One group was told to fall asleep as quickly as possible. The other group was told they could fall asleep whenever they liked. Same beds, same environment, same people who had been sleeping without difficulty their entire lives. The group told to hurry took significantly longer to fall asleep, not because they were anxious, not because the instruction stressed them out, because the act of trying to sleep, of monitoring whether sleep was arriving, of evaluating progress toward unconsciousness, activated exactly the neural systems that sleep requires to go offline. The effort and the outcome were in direct conflict. And the effort won. In 1994, a Harvard psychologist named Daniel Wegner published what became one of the most cited papers in the psychology of mental control. The experiment was simple. He told participants not to think about a white bear, to keep the image out of their minds entirely. Then he measured how often they thought about it. They thought about it constantly, more than people who had been told to think about the white bear deliberately. More than people who had never been given any instruction at all. Wegner called this the ironic process, the phenomenon in which the mental act of suppressing a thought reliably produces more of the thought it is trying to suppress. The mechanism is specific. When you try to avoid thinking about something, the brain runs two simultaneous processes. The first is the intentional process, the active effort to redirect attention away from the target. The second is the ironic monitoring process, a background check that continuously scans for the suppressed thought to verify that the suppression is working. The monitoring process has to keep the target concept active in order to check for it, which means the target is never actually gone. It is being held in place by the system that was supposed to eliminate it. Now replace the white bear with sleep. When you lie in bed trying to fall asleep, the intentional process says, stop thinking, relax, let go. It's time to go under. The ironic monitoring process says, check if that's working. Is it working? Are you asleep yet? How close are you? You're not asleep yet. The monitoring process has to keep the state of wakefulness active in order to check whether it has been replaced by sleep. And as long as the monitoring process is running, the state it is checking for cannot resolve. The brain that is watching itself fall asleep will never fall asleep. Sleep initiation requires a specific neural event, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center, the seat of deliberate thought, self-monitoring, and goal-directed behavior, has to go offline. Not partially, not in a monitored, careful way. It has to relinquish control in a process that cannot be supervised, because supervision is precisely what it is designed to do. Trying to fall asleep is a prefrontal cortex activity. Monitoring whether you are falling asleep is a prefrontal cortex activity. Evaluating the quality of your relaxation, checking whether your breathing is slow enough, noticing whether your thoughts are quieting down. All of it is executive function. Running at full capacity in the organ that must shut down before sleep can begin. The effort to sleep and the mechanism of sleep are using the same hardware. They cannot run simultaneously. There is a name, coined in 2017 by researchers at Rush University, for the modern condition that has made this worse at a population level. They called it orthosomnia, a clinical term for the sleep disorder caused by excessive preoccupation with sleeping correctly. It is the condition that emerges when people become so aware of sleep's importance, so attentive to their sleep metrics, so focused on achieving optimal rest that the attention itself becomes the obstacle. Sleep trackers measure it. 8-hour norms enforce it. Every piece of content about the importance of sleep, including, with some irony, this one, raises the stakes of each night's performance and hands the ironic monitoring process a new and very specific thing to check for. In the evolutionary environment, there was no concept of sleeping correctly. There was only sleeping and the conditions that made it possible or difficult. The brain's sleep initiation system did not compete with a parallel system evaluating whether the sleep was good enough. It ran unobserved, the way breathing runs unobserved, the way digestion runs unobserved, because no one was watching. The moment you start watching, the process changes. In clinical sleep medicine, the technique is called paradoxical intention, and it is one of the most consistently effective components of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, the treatment that research has confirmed outperforms sleep medication for long-term outcomes. The instruction is counterintuitive to the point of feeling like a joke the first time you hear it. Lie in bed, close your eyes, and try to stay awake. Not to watch a screen, not to think through problems, not to do anything at all. Simply lie there in the dark and maintain a passive, gentle intention to remain conscious. Tell yourself, I don't need to sleep. I am just resting here. If sleep comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I am comfortable anyway. What this does is not magic. It is the removal of the one thing that was preventing sleep from happening. The intentional process stops issuing the suppression command. The ironic monitoring process loses its target. The prefrontal cortex, no longer tasked with supervising the approach of unconsciousness, begins the deactivation sequence that sleep requires. Clinical trials show it reduces sleep onset time in the majority of participants, not by adding anything to the process, but by removing the one thing that was blocking it. The 2024 NIH Systematic Review confirmed paradoxical intention as one of the most evidence-supported techniques in insomnia treatment, not despite its counterintuitive logic, but because of it. Sleep is what happens when the part of your brain that achieves things finally agrees to stop. You didn't fail at sleeping. You tried too hard at it, which is the one thing sleep cannot survive. The moment you stop trying is not the moment you give up. It is the moment the process can finally begin.